is giving Elon Musk clone. And number two, like I said, like, you don't have the correct tools in there for have an adverse effect to any of the medication. And you're doing all this because you want to force me to have this Adam Mosseri clone as my lawyer. You understand what I'm saying? I can defend myself. I'm not incompetent when it comes to defending myself. What you guys want, you want me to sit up. You want to force the plea deals. You want to force the process with the lawyer, and you want to force the other stuff. I don't want that. This is why you don't tell anybody anything about court systems and jails or anything like that, because you don't want them to know anything, and you don't care if a person ends up doing 10 years, 15 years. There was a girl, she claimed she was innocent. I don't know if that's true or not, because she didn't go to trial because there was some lawyer that was kept forcing her to basically take a plea deal. You understand? Within that plea deal, she had to do what? 20 years. They said 20 or 40. Technically, if you're a judge, right, and you say, I'm going to give this person a deal, I don't want them to go to trial. Don't go to trial. Take the plea deal. No. You're setting them up for that, because when you say if you lose a trial, you're going to do 40 years. No, if you are supposedly a good judge and I'm supposed to actually trust you, your sentencing should be the same as well. And as a judge, you should take that as what? I was actually able as a judge to sit up to do what? I was able to sit up and sit back and have a free day at work. I'm literally just sitting up eating popcorn at this point. That's it. Literally. So all that extra shit of, you understand? So I don't like that process. Like I said, like if you had to take this shit, like I said, but that is attempted murder though. If you take that mail, yes, this fucking cloned out ass Dr. Dennis Zavadany. I want to be able to defend myself, and I want to have a jury trial throughout this process. I don't want to be locked in a psych ward. I don't want the judge to, I'm not going to the judge. It's just stuff like that. I'm not going to the judge for the trial. And, I know that my prosecutor as well still too is a clone. Like and I'm going to tell you, the prosecutor is a clone because, like I said, why does the prosecutor look like my auntie? You have taken a picture via the internet of a picture of my auntie, and you sat up and, I don't know, they call it GAN technology, and you morphed her face in a certain kind of a way. You've made her skinnier in some kind of a way, and you sat up and I told you, people can clone you from a picture, and you turned that to the physical. That's even from when you see AI, right? And they can make you older, they can make you younger, they can make you black, they can make you white, they can make you Spanish, they can make you all kinds of different kinds. It starts right there. 3D biological printer. So these are rich people basically doing that, to some type of a degree. Like it makes some form of sense. So I can't just sit up and keep acting like this is not what's happening throughout this process. Like, but that man is trying to do an attempted murder. You're trying to do this is attempted murder. And they're like, oh man, like we can't prosecute him. You can't call the police on him. If I can't call the police on you, you have to be something. You got to be a clone or something. I can't even file a police report on you. What does that mean? You got to be some kind of a some kind of a clone, bruh. We can't file a police report on you? Mind you, I could file a police report on the police. So if I can't file a police report on Dr. Dennis Zavadany, something is off about that. You're saying that I'm incompetent to be able to stand trial, but I need to have a lawyer. No. I have a right to be able to defend myself, and I have a right to be able to have a jury trial. You need to sit up and like do what? And he believes in your brain, this is what you're saying. In the Montgomery County office, you believe that you can pay fines at the office. You're in my business so much, but what you don't realize is that in Harris County, they're not allowing people to basically do that. For if it was a ticket. While you're in my business, you had to gotten that information from the internet. You're doing attempted murder. You're trying to kill somebody through the legal system. You need to be prosecuted for that. Like, literally, you need to be prosecuted for that. Because people are not sitting up telling me stuff like this. People are not sitting up and saying, this girl is crazy as the fuck. Nobody is sitting up and saying that besides, who was the dude at the Harris County that was his words are not valid. Who cares? Like, you understand? He's a liar still too as well. This is the same guy that sat up and said, if you go to all this stuff has to be handled in court. You understand? Which is not true. It can be handled outside of court at the district attorney's office, or it could have been handled inside of court still too as well. It didn't matter which way that it went. It could have been handled both ways. You know what I'm saying? Again, like, y'all just make up rules as y'all go. So anyways, like I said, like, throughout that process, yes, like, Dr. Dennis Zavadany, you're trying to do an attempted murder. You're trying to do an attempted murder. It's just the truth about that process. You're trying to do an attempted murder. If somebody has trial next month, you keep asking them a bunch of strange ass questions and this, that, and the third throughout this process. Somebody is actually telling you the truth. There's a science behind this. And for some strange reason, you said that I am going to lock you up in a psych ward and put you on drugs. And the psych ward that we're in, and look, and you said, it literally says it's in the writing, until she decides to get a public defender. So if that's what that shit is basically saying in the writing, it sounds like what it says. Now, again, like I said, I've already went through an experience where I had to do what? I had to go to the hospital for one pill. I felt like I was going to possibly have an overdose. This was from prescribed medication, prescribed. All that shit was prescribed. So in that case, and I've been locked in a psych ward and I've seen exactly how it is. And I told you it's a co-ed dorm. I don't like that. I'm not in agreement with that. And you been had plans on, because he was asking for my address and stuff. Yeah, he kept asking for my address. I don't know. He eventually gets my address, and then this is what you send me, because I want to defend myself. Because you're afraid of what it is that I'm actually going to say during court, because what I'm going to say during court is actually so real. But you keep trying to gaslight people in some kind of a way to say that they're crazy in some kind of a way. No. Everything that I'm saying, it make common goddamn sense. You have that in writing, so now you're still trying to threaten a person, and that's what you're threatening them with. And you're trying to do an attempted murder. Like, that's the biggest thing I want people to realize about that. You're literally trying to do an attempted murder. Like I said, like this, it's literally like this. Now, let's say, like I said, Dr. Dennis what his name? Dennis Zavadany. Now, if I, like I said, if I sit up and I find out the location of where you live at and stuff like that, and I was to kill you or harm you in some kind of a way, they would be prosecuting me like I was just so wrong and I was the most wrongest person in the world. They would be like, "Oh, she's wrong and this is a murderer. This is like." But do you see how you're treating me throughout this court system process?